Mr. Robby, I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh man, I'm so excited to be here. I mean, I've been to Florida so many times, but coming to Miami has always been like a huge goal of mine. So seeing this side of Florida as opposed to the northern side, Jacksonville, a little bit of Orlando, but mostly Panama City. So down here, it's just a completely different vibe, but I love it.
What's the biggest difference that you've seen?
I guess I don't know. There's a lot more structures, at least what it seems like here. And when it comes down to being in a place like Orlando, I mean, it was more inland. Mm-hmm. So being closer to the beach, I mean, especially like with Panama City, it's the Gulf Coast. So it's completely different when you compare it to, this side of the state. So I'm really, really, really loving it though.
I'm glad that you like it. And you're in town for a little while, so hopefully you got to hit the beaches. And
I just hit up the beach yesterday. Did a shoot when I got in, and hit up the beach, Miami Beach, but I don't know exactly where it was at. So still just trying to catch my bearing and where I'm at here. So just trying to figure things out.
It's a lot. I mean, a couple of days here, you'll be fine. You'll be a true Floridian after a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been starting off every single episode so far by asking the same question.
Okay.
And that is, what camera do you use?
Okay.
And then what is your go-to lens?
Okay, so I'm a Sony shooter. I didn't start off as a Sony shooter. I actually started off as a Nikon guy.
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about cameras. My very first camera was a Nikon D5600, and I bought it on a Black Friday sale like 5 years. Actually, Black Friday almost 5 years ago now. Wow. So because we're almost there now. Mm-hmm. So I bought it 5 years ago, a bunch of kit lenses and all that stuff because I was starting to fall in love with photography. Mm-hmm. Over time, I started to get better and wanted to get something with a little bit more quality. So I started researching, asking other photographers what they recommend. And Sony was it. And then started out with a 50 millimeter prime. But one thing I hated about prime lenses is the lack in versatility. So you don't have much freedom to do what you want with a prime lens unless you have a straight up plan on what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And of course, one of my idols, my mentors, Danny Batista, got me into the 24 to 70 millimeter. So that's literally, that never ever leaves my camera. That's the only thing that I shoot with.
Shout out to Danny for that one.
Exactly.
I feel like he inspired so many people.
Oh, he does, man. And I know he does because I talk to so many people that, some people have said, they look up to me and some of the work that I do, but, and which is great because I try to be a mentor for other photographers as well. But having a guy like Danny Batista to run to, talk to, ask questions, get info, get advice, he's second to none. I can't ask for a better person to ask for help. So Definitely. He's awesome.
So are you big on mentorship when it comes to photography?
I am. I think it's really important. As we live in this crazy digital social media age that we can communicate so well and so easily. And I think that I'm sure everyone has their own way of approaching things, but I think I learned so much from so many different photographers that I don't like to sit back and just take all the information that I learned and just keep it to myself. So anytime somebody asks me for help on what my camera settings are, why certain camera settings are important, what kind of camera I use, the equipment that I use, off-camera flash, which is a huge one. And
talk about that one later.
Yeah. So I think it's important to constantly help each other. I mean, of course, when it comes to being a photographer, there's going to be some level of, quote unquote competition when it comes to having a business. But either which way you look at it, we all learn from somebody. I don't really think that anybody got here all by themselves.
100%. I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
I think we share mentorship when it comes to Danny too. Because it's just, something I like about him and also just the industry in general so far, and you can tell me if you feel the same way, is that I haven't really gotten the whole competition thing or animosity from other photographers. It's been very open.
Oh, yeah.
Like when it comes to questions about gear or how certain shots were taken,
right.
or just how to color grade. Like it's a very open industry, at least right now.
Yeah.
Just because all the information is free anyway. We can always go to YouTube University and figure out anything, right?
Right.
And so whenever I've had a question about a shot, even asking you, like it's always been a very open and a very like exciting conversation because I don't feel like we're trying to gatekeep free information.
Right. And I think, when you find those individuals that don't mind communicating, that when you ask them a question, stick to them. If they're free and they know how to break things down to you really well, stick to that person. Doesn't matter who it is. If you like a certain style of photography and you like how they do things and you guys know how to communicate with each other really well, use them as a resource as many times as you possibly can. It doesn't matter who it is, so.
It's funny. I will stumble on a photographer's page like randomly or on my Explore feed, and I'll see a photographer and be like, he was inspired by Danny. Like I can there's something about how Danny teaches like skin retouching and the relationship with the colors that I can see the inspiration.
Oh yeah,
right, when it comes to it.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see how, because obviously there's a lot of people that have their own specific style and how they like to do things. But when you find someone that is getting it right, especially someone like Danny that likes to share information, people want to follow that lead. And he's a huge leader in the industry, so people follow his lead, and you can tell just by seeing a lot of the work that some people put out, myself included. I know that I like to take bits and pieces of the things that he does as far as candidness and all that good stuff. But I'm still trying to adopt my own specific style. I think that especially when it comes to wanting to work for brands and businesses, I think you have to be able to gear your style towards what they want as opposed to what you want. Sometimes they'll reach out to you because they like your style, but in other instances, you have to address what they need. And I think that's a really big thing. I think being versatile, being able to work on the fly, doing multiple different things, lighting, colors, you name it. I like to be able to hit whatever I possibly can when it comes to that. So
definitely, and you hit them very, very well.
Oh, appreciate it.
I think I started following you maybe a year ago.
Yeah, it's been about a year.
And your work is incredible, man. Like your attention to detail. And I think you started off with cars, right?
I did. Yeah, I started off with automotive photography. That's the only reason I bought a camera. So really? Okay. Yeah, I was granted, yeah, I'm in the Air Force, right? I'm stationed in the military, or in Idaho in the Air Force. And when I was in England, I was stationed in England for about 4 years between 2013 and 2017, something like that. And I'm a big Mustang guy. So I have my Mustang out in England, and in Europe, Mustangs are like, they're like the Ferraris here and stuff, so they really love them out there. But I started to, get deeper into social media while I was out there, got my own Instagram page. And then I started to follow this other photographer. His name is Nathan Bromer. He started out as I know he's a photographer for a living, but he's an automotive photographer. And he was my first true inspiration when it comes to photography. So I reached out to him a lot when it came to, how to take pictures of cars and learning about a CPL filter and all that stuff, because that's where I initially learned all that stuff. And got back to America, was taking pictures with my phone, and I was just like, okay, time to start taking this a little bit more seriously. It was more of just a hobby, though. It was just something that it was nice to go out and kill some time and take pictures of my car. And over time, it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And then that's what literally made my Instagram page blow up, was my car. Just take pictures of my car. Everyone loved the car. Everyone loved the photos that I took. My Instagram page just kind of blew up at that point. I don't have like an immense amount of followers, but I have enough that's where, kind of got me on the map when it came to being a photographer, and just kind of gravitated over to portraits. So that's where I'm at now.
What made you make that transition?
Well, honestly, a girl reached out to me, said, "Hey, have you ever done like any modeling photos?" And I'm like, nope, I have not. And I don't even know where I'm supposed to start when it comes to stuff like that. But, obviously, since I don't know so much, it's not like I was going to be like, hey, okay, let's do it. And I'm going to charge you like $100 to do the photo shoot. I've never done this before, but she's like, no. She's like, let's just go out and we'll see what you can do. And I did it. And I didn't realize how much I was going to enjoy just having someone else there to shoot with. So when I had her in frame, and I'm like, okay, well, this is a little bit more fun, because now I get to, I have a little bit of a vision. And the thing that's different when it comes to shooting with cars as opposed to shooting with models or people is that you can take a person and just say, hey, turn this way, look that way, sit down, stand up. When you take pictures of cars, the car is there. The car just sits there. So you got to take your camera, on a tripod or whatever it is that you're doing, and you got to go around the car. And then if you need to reposition, guess what? You got to get in the car, you got to move the car, you got to reposition it. The sun's changing its direction, all that stuff. So it's way different. Automotive and portraits, way different. But after I got done with that shoot, it was just, I guess this is game on. More people started to reach out, and found another girl. She actually moved out here to Miami now, but she's one of my first people that I ever shot with. So she, we kind of grew together because she wanted to be a model too. So we just kind of went out, did whatever we could do, came up with new ideas, all that good stuff. So
sounds amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah.
And I can feel your energy. At what point do you think it went from being a hobby to something that you see a future in?
Well, people started to reach out to me in, a lot. And it got to the point where it's like, okay, the demand, when it comes to business, and this one thing that I'm still trying to learn about photography is the business aspect. And when it comes to demand, when people start saying, hey, I want photos, I'm like, okay, my schedule is starting to get pretty filled up when it comes to just doing collaborative stuff. So I was like, okay, maybe I can start, making money off of this. Maybe it could be a business for me. If people really like my style, they like my work, they like my attention to detail, or whatever it is that they like, they want me to do it for them. So once I started to get those people that started to come in and asking me, hey, I want to do a shoot. And I was like, okay, well, here's my rates, right? And of course, as starting off, my rates were very cheap, just because I had a hard time just thinking that I was worth anything. But they saw value, and when people see value, that's just an opportunity to monetize on it. So definitely. I would say I was probably doing portraits for about maybe a year at that point, when I just knew that, okay, maybe I can start turning this into a business. And that's slowly what I'm starting to do right now.
Definitely. And this whole time, you've still been juggling the Air Force with your photography. Yeah,
I'm 19 and a half years in now. So I retire next July.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man. And I'm after, we call a lot of this stuff, being passionate about photography and all those things. And I know that a lot of other people like to talk about it in a business sense. And I think a lot of people either gear towards one side versus the other. I think that there's a lot of passion behind it. The thing about me is that I've been in the military for almost 20 years. And it's not to say that I never really loved my job, but I never loved anything like I love photography. So passion has kind of pushed me in that direction. And I think that when it comes to doing something for so long that you weren't so passionate about, that's all you want to do. So that's where I'm at right now, is I want to find something. Well, I wanted to find something that I could picture myself doing for the rest of my life and being happy and making money on top of it. So I don't want to just sit back and just not do anything with my life. And I know a lot of people do so many different things after the military, whether it be veteran jobs or still working for the military with federal jobs and all that stuff. That's not something that I want to do. When I'm done with the military, I'm checked out. I'm done. I don't want to be anywhere near it, because I'm an aircraft mechanic. And it's so funny because people ask me, so what do you plan on doing when you retire from the military? It's like, well, I'll tell you right now, it's not going to be working on airplanes. The only time I'm going to touch an airplane is when I'm flying on it to somewhere like Miami. There we go.
That's worth it.
Yeah.
And then something I like about following you is that you're always very vocal. And that's something I think you and I spoke about that a little while ago, about being more expressive, like showing people your face and your voice and the way that you see things. And has that been easy for you? Because the majority of photographers that I've met are very introverted.
Yeah, I know.
They don't like being in front of the camera. We don't like to, have a camera on our face. We like being behind it. Right. So it's almost rare to see photographers who are comfortable speaking out and comfortable being in front of the camera. Was that easy for you? Yeah, I mean, so as of right now in the military, I'm an instructor. So I teach people and I talk to people daily. And I'm not an extrovert. I still believe that I'm some kind of an introvert, because I like to be, behind closed doors, hanging out by myself, editing photos in my quiet, listen to music, stuff like that in my room. So, but I wouldn't say that it was easy, because it's always difficult to say something to the camera and then look at yourself saying something to the camera. You just feel so weird. Hearing myself. Exactly. I can't even hear my voice. I don't listen to any of the podcasts because I can't stand how I sound. And I think it's just not being comfortable with the camera and being in front of it. Right. And it's all it takes is doing it
over and over and over again, to where it's like, okay, now I know, that's my voice. And I don't sound like that when I hear myself, but when I hear myself on on a video, it's like, okay, that's so weird, but at the same time, the more you do it, that's how, you look at YouTube today. A lot of the YouTubers that like to, do vlogs and all that stuff, they have their own catchphrases and all that stuff. It's just something that you adopt over time. Right. It's not something that I'm really like into. I'm not trying to do something, that kind of shows who I am. But I think being able to constantly talk to the camera and finding a way that, because when we communicate to people, and I think it's the candid videos that we see of ourselves that just make us feel really awkward at that point. You're like, I swear I felt so different when I was talking, but I just look. Yeah, I said that too, right? I could have sworn I looked better than I actually do, because you look at yourself in the mirror every day, but that's a reverse picture of yourself. But no, I don't know. I think what makes talking to the camera on social media important is, especially in a position like I am, because I do like to travel and I like to, meet all kinds of different people. When you put yourself on camera on social media and you've never met them before and they've never met you or whatever, it's an opportunity for them to grab your mannerisms. It's to see who you are, how you act, what your voice sounds like, so that when they meet you for the first time, it's not like the first time. Right. You know what I mean? So I think it's important, especially as, if you're a photographer that likes to either shoot with people, shoot with brands. I think being able to communicate on camera and talk to what maybe feels like a stranger because you're talking to the camera, try and find something that makes it feel comfortable to you, to where you're actually it might be like you're having a conversation with yourself, but I promise you someone is listening. Someone is listening to what you're saying right now. So, it was difficult at first just because I don't know how to really act. I just started acting normal, acting like I am right now. So when I talk to the camera on Instagram, it's going to be the same as you hear from me right here. So it's been difficult, but over time it got easier. And
it seems like you're very, very good at it. Like it comes naturally to you. From me looking at you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing is that my mom, she follows me on Instagram, so I always she lives in Idaho now, but she used to live in Los Angeles. So when she used to see me on Instagram talking, she always used to say, "Oh, I love to see you." And I was like, "Oh, great, Mom, thanks." But you're my mom. You're supposed to say these things, So
that's so funny.
Yeah,
my mom, she's like, it's a little embarrassing. She's very proud, right? So that's not embarrassing at all. She's very like, my son's a photographer, and she'll be at work and she'll show her friends my page, and I'm like, don't do that. Don't show your friends my page. But no, I love that. Are your family supportive of what you do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My mom and dad, my mom loves my work. She literally likes every single thing that I post.
Your
so
work is dope, bro. Okay, I'm excited. When you go to a set and you're about to shoot, what do you look for first? You have your model, you have the location. What is your thought process once you get to set?
So sometimes, I guess it depends what the plan was in the beginning. If we had a specific plan, something that we're trying to approach, something that we're trying to capture, because I do all kinds of different things. I like to be very creative when it comes to storytelling. Still not very good at it. I don't feel I'm trying to get there, but it just depends on what someone's either hiring me to do or what we decided to collaborate on. But I'd say probably one of the first things that I try to pay attention to is lighting. Lighting is always my big thing. And it doesn't matter where I'm at or what I'm doing, I'm always going to have my flash with me. So it doesn't, if we have bad lighting, well, I'll find a way to make it a little bit better with the two different, flashes that I have in my bag. But I'd say lighting is the big thing. And then, of course, another thing that I learned from Danny Batista is how to create a crutch, and not a crutch in a bad way, but it's a way for either like your model, for instance, especially if they're not very experienced. A good tip is to be able to have them to lean on something, touch something, because usually when they're just standing there in front of the camera, they usually don't know what to do with their hands or their legs or something like that. But when you give them something to sit on or lean on, things just start to naturally kind of flow. So the two big things that I always look for is lighting and what I can use as a prop or something that they can stand on, sit on, lean on, stuff like that. So
makes a lot of sense. And then do you think are you good at directing, in your opinion?
I don't know. It's I've been told that, I do a good job, but then I don't get feedback Sometimes too, but I don't think that anyone's ever told me to my face anyways that I suck at directing. But personally, I think I could get better. It's one thing that I'm trying to adapt on, because just like I said, when it comes to storytelling, that's where it gets difficult for me. And usually, like if I have somebody that has been in front of the camera numerous times, or is very comfortable, or is very animated in their approach, then directing gets a little bit easier. But as a photographer, I think it's important to be able to direct anybody. It doesn't matter what their level of experience is. So one of the big things that I'm trying to work on is better directing when it comes to moving people around or getting them to trying to capture a specific emotion, something that we might be going for. So that's important.
So it's funny you mentioned that. So one of the things that I wanted to work on myself was directing, right? And I always felt that that's where I lacked the most experience and skill.
Right.
And so recently I started modeling, right? And
you did?
I did. And not because I feel like I look good or anything, but because I wanted to learn what it was like to be directed.
Right.
And to have somebody tell me how to move and how to pose. And modeling is hard.
Yeah.
Modeling is not easy because literally, like you said, you stand there and you have no idea where to put anything.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how to look.
Right.
And then someone asks you to look sad and you're like, I don't know. And you make crazy things.
Exactly.
And so I thought that it was a cool way to get the experience of how it felt to be directed by somebody by being in their position. And then when you can relate that way, it's a little easier. Like it's become easier for me to direct because I know what it's like to be directed.
Right.
And no one will ever see these pictures, but it was a way that I used to be able to get that experience, just being in front of the camera more, and getting comfortable and being more relatable to the model that I'm shooting.
Right.
Because I only shoot portraits. I don't shoot anything else. And so those skills they're invaluable. You need to have those skills as a photographer.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, putting yourself in the environment that you don't know really anything about, but if you want to be a professional, and because there's so many different ways of what people deem a professional, right? Because you're a pro photographer, I'm a pro photographer, but what makes me a pro versus somebody else? You know what I mean? And I think having the skills to be able to either navigate the entire shoot, lighting, you name it. There's so many different elements that comes into play when it comes to being a pro. And I think if you can put yourself in their shoes and kind of get an experience, because I have thought about, maybe I should sit in front of the camera, but I would just be so awkward, man. I know I would be so awkward because that is not me. You know what I mean? Like I can't, I already look funny when I look at myself with my phone, just recording videos, so I think that's a good tip though, especially if, if you're a photographer and you feel like you would be, if it doesn't bother you to sit in front of a camera, and get a different perspective of it, because that's what it is. It's just a different perspective.
Even self-portraits too.
Absolutely.
Even if it's just yourself in the camera and taking a photo and seeing how it looks and then being able to describe to somebody else how to move.
Right. Yeah. Because I've taken self-portraits before myself, and but it's mostly real still stuff. So I can just set myself in front of the camera, either look at the camera, look away from the camera. The difference between doing a self-portrait and someone else taking pictures of you, but because I do agree that doing self-portraits does still give you a different perspective. But as the thing is about the photographer, right? Because the photographer is going to see it through their eyes. So if they know all about the composition and everything that's going on around them, and that's the thing, right? The model doesn't know that. Right. The model's not paying attention to that. They can't see that. Right. And that's one thing that photographers need to keep in mind, is that they don't know what you're looking at. So you might have a vision, but you have to learn how to guide them in that direction. You know what I mean? So if you can get it from a model's perspective on what they're trying to do, because they're not focusing on that tree that's behind them or that building that's behind them or the railing that they're holding onto, you're the one focusing on that, but you're also focusing on them. But the one thing that they're trying to do is make sure that they look proper in front of the camera. So it's a team effort, right? I think 100%. It's got to be a team effort, and I don't think that either person can really take all the credit. I think that working together when it comes to taking photos is very crucial to the success of it. So
100%. It's funny. Going back to Danny, shout out to Danny.
Shout out to Danny, man.
I've done, I think maybe 2 one-on-ones with him, and something that he always tells me is to communicate everything. Communicate every second of what is going through your head. Communicate your intentions. Like, like you said, we notice the branch behind her, or we
Right.
notice the pole that she's leaning on. And so being able to say, hey, I like that tree, lean on that tree because it connects to this tree over here and it makes a cool book,
Right.
whatever the case is.
Right.
Being able to, so they, in their heads, they have an idea of what I'm trying to do.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's super important. That's a skill that not every photographer has or need, and like you said, needs to develop.
Right.
Because I've been to like group shoots when I've seen other photographers shoot and they don't say anything.
Right.
And it's like, bro, how is she gonna know what to do if you don't explain? You're just there taking photos.
Yeah.
They have to know like what it's like and what you see, and then show them like, are you the kind of photographer that shows photos?
Always, yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Because they need to know what you're seeing,
right?
Too, and then what your intentions behind a pose or location or the way she's facing.
Right.
Those are small things that it helps the photo look better.
Right. Communication. And I preach communication so much when it comes to being a photographer, and communication branches across the entire spectrum from day one of communicating to each other from, whether it be on Instagram or in person, or to the end of the shoot, till after the shoot, to where you're calling through photos and you're getting ready to send them all the photos. Communication is big, and it doesn't start and stop. Well, it starts from day one. And I think that when you can establish some kind of relationship with the person that you're shooting with on set, everything that's coming to life, you have to be able to show them what it is that you're seeing. And because I think it's important, show your models or show the person that you're shooting with what exactly it is that you're capturing, because they want to see what they look like too. It's never a question for me. I'll take 10, 15 shots. This is what we just got. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then they'll say something like, well, my hair is this, or, I didn't like how my hand was positioned. So then we go back and we do it again. Mm-hmm. And then I capture what she wants while she's also capturing what I want. It's it's a give and take. Right. Exactly. We work together on it. And I think it's very, very, very important to do that.
Definitely. Is there a skill that you want to develop more of that you?
Yeah. When it comes to, when it comes to the way we share our work today, there is an obvious shift in video, because of Instagram Reels and TikTok and all of that good stuff. I'm trying to get better at videography. Doing video has become kind of important to me, just because I'm infatuated with movies. I love watching all kinds of different types of movies. So cinematography is one big thing that I've been trying to pay attention to. So video work is most definitely my weak point, but I'm trying to get better at. So anytime I'm shooting with someone, I'm like, hey, let's just do a video real quick. Yeah. And I just want to see how quick we can get it on the fly, So
the video you made with Danny and with Alyssa.
Oh yeah.
What was it like? What inspired that?
So funny, right? So I've gone through 2 of Danny's workshops. Mm-hmm. I did my first one, I believe it was in 2020, right in the height of COVID. And he came all the way out to Idaho, taught me how to edit, which I already knew really well how to do, but he kind of just fine-tuned me. And then we went over another workshop on lighting and how to take better photos. And I enjoyed it so much, and I continued to follow him, saw all of his tutorials and all that stuff. And I said, hey man, I want you to come back out and teach me how to, be a better storyteller is what I wanted. And he's like, okay, I can bring Alyssa. And I was like, perfect. I've always been wanting to shoot with Alyssa, so.
It's one of my goals.
Shoot with Alyssa. She's amazing. She's so awesome. And she's such a pro at what she does, because I'll tell you right now, they came in April of this year. They came all the way out to Idaho, and it stayed cold for a while. And when they showed up, Alyssa was, I can tell she was just, it was just miserable for her. It was miserable for me. So I know it had to have been for her, so it was cold. But what was funny is I went scouting to find us a location somewhere outdoors, somewhere. One of Danny's ideas was to do something in like a Joshua trees, and I'm like, oh man, we're in Idaho, we don't have those here. Right. But I was like, I think I know what you're thinking of, so I'll go and find us a spot. And then I kid you not, the day of the shoot, he messages me. He's like, hey man, do you have like a shovel and some rope? And I'm like, what? What are we doing now? And I was like, no, but I'm not that far from a hardware store. I'll go and grab it real quick. So I went and bought a shovel and some rope. And he's like, yeah, man. So I'm thinking that she can be someone that's like tying up my ankles, and she's coming out to the desert to bury me. And I'm like, okay. That's kind of cool. Yeah. I was like, I never thought about that, but I was like, yeah, that could be kind of fun. So that's literally what it came down to. He also brought like a like an old vintage suitcase where we had her like walking down the street by herself, left all alone kind of thing. And that's the thing that I've been wanting to get better at, is the storytelling aspect of it, because people take photos for many different reasons. I just think that one of the things that I really enjoy is getting people to stare a little bit longer, capture the emotion, what's actually happening here. And that's why I'm so gravitated towards cinematography and movies, because I love the storytelling aspect of it. But that's basically how that all came to life, is I hired him to come out and teach me how to be a better storyteller. He started coming up with ideas. And that's the thing, right? The creative mindset of some people on when they come up with certain ideas, it's like, what made you think of that? Like, why can't I think of that too? But there's been other times too, after that workshop, and he told me, all the different elements that come into taking photos and doing videos all at the same time, all on the fly, to where you're not wasting anybody's time. My mind just started to shift. And that's the thing. When you train yourself to do something, it's just like going to the gym. When you go to the gym for so long, you get stronger, you get bigger, you start paying attention to where you need to work harder at. And it doesn't change with anything that you're trying to set your mind to. So when it comes to being a photographer or a videographer, the more you do it, the more you train yourself, the better you get. Your mind starts to shift a little bit. And I think that's what's starting to happen to me a little bit, is that I know I have a little bit of creativeness in me, but just a little. And I think that being able to pull more out of that just by constantly going out. And I think repetition, just like going to the gym, do all these repetitions every single day to get stronger. Your mind's going to get stronger the same way. Your muscle memory when it comes to moving the camera, the things that you're seeing, everything. It's just like going to the gym. It's just like anything else that we set our minds to. Just like when a football player is training, a basketball, baseball player, it doesn't matter. They're setting their mind to it. They train themselves to it over and over and over again. So that's kind of what I've been listening to myself, kind of looking internally, just to pay attention to what I'm doing, because I know I'm going somewhere with it,
100%. Yeah, you're actually one of my favorite creatives. So actually, I have your notifications on, like the little bell.
Oh, do you? That's
not because I love your work, and you spoke about cinematography inspiring you, and I wanted to ask you, because it's the same thing for me. Like, I don't just watch a TV show now. Now I'm watching a TV show. It's like I'm seeing the colors, what they're using. Are they contrasting colors? Are they complementary colors? I'm seeing build-up shots, and I'm seeing how they're going from wide angles, and I'm guessing in my head the kind of lens that they're using, or the kind of angle that they're at. Like, are they at 24? Are they at 7?
Right.
Like, why are they close up? Like, why are they doing a dolly zoom? Like, and I think it's good and bad. Like, it almost ruined the movie experience for me, because I'm not watching the movie, I'm watching how it was shot.
Right.
And even in everyday life now, I can walk down the street and I'm seeing a spot. I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool for a great picture I could have taken here. Or I see anything and I can just imagine shooting there and what I would do if I were to shoot there.
Right.
Does that happen to you as well?
Oh yeah, and I'm right there with you that it ruins the movie sometimes. Like, because I'll start paying attention. What kind of lighting are they using? Where is that actual sun? Because I know that most of the time you can tell when they're using, lights that aren't on, and then there's other aspects where you're watching a movie and you're like, you'll see it's at like twilight, or the sun's getting ready to go down and they're on the beach. You can tell that there's no lighting. It's just really good camera settings and there's someone out there looking out at the ocean. And I love stuff like that. So I start to pay attention on framing and colors, because cinematic colors, they change, but at the same time, I don't feel like cinematic colors really change from movie to movie or TV show to TV show. I think that a lot of them are very monotoned, very, still very colorful, but it just depends on what the mood is. And I think that colors and camera angle and depth and focal length, all those things come into play, and depending on which direction you're going with it, can really capture a mood, capture an emotion. And when I'm watching a movie, that's what I start to pay attention to. And I'm like, okay, and one of the big things when I start, because I'm really big into horror movies, one of the things that I started to notice with horror movies is the canted camera angle. They call it the Dutch angle or something like that. And it's supposed to express angst and terror.
Describe that angle, because I'm not familiar.
What's that?
Can you describe the angle?
Yeah. So like if I were to take my camera and then just kind of like shift it to where it's at, kind of like a 45-degree angle. I think there's actually a specific measurement that some of them even say that it typically sits at. But when you have it at an angle, it's supposed to create that angst. And a lot of times too, the lens will be very wide angled. So you get a vision of what's going on around them, but the canted Dutch angle is just to create, that kind of uneasy feeling that something's happening or something bad is about to happen. So that's one of the things that I even looked up, and it's actually true. They do that with a lot of horror movies, and it's not even just horror, thriller movies, anything that's something is crazy about to happen. It just naturally makes your mind uneasy. So it's,
Have you incorporated that into your work?
I have. Yeah. It was some of the horror stuff that I do, because I'll play with it every now and again, something that kind of creates a little uneasy feeling. I'll throw it in there every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, I just did one for Halloween, and I did one frame where the angle was canted like that. I put a Dutch angle on it. So, but yeah, I pay attention to stuff like that. I think it's important, because if you're not a creative, if you're just a person enjoying the movies, why are you really enjoying it? What's making you enjoying it? Right. Because when I started to look up the Dutch angle, and I'm like, okay, well, most horror movies are doing that. Let's see what I can do with it. So it all just depends on, like, you get those famous TV shows. What we got, like Euphoria, right? I watch You. You is another one of my favorites when it comes to cinematography. Mm-hmm. They're outstanding. I love what that director does for that TV show. But I start to pay attention to those things, and if I have a specific movie, and if you're creative, if you have specific movies or TV shows, start paying attention to those things. And it doesn't matter if you're doing video work either. Pay attention to it for photos too, because you can take still life the same way they do in movies. So. Right. So I think paying attention to lighting, colors, all that stuff, and trying to emulate that is just another opportunity for you to grow. So
100%. Mm-hmm. That's also something like I'm working on too. I want to get that movie feel to a photo.
Right.
Going back to Danny, he's incredible at telling a story through photos.
He is, yeah.
You're swiping through and you feel like you're watching a video.
Exactly.
It's super impressive, and that's something that I think we should all try to do, because there's a way that as creatives we can convey emotion, mm-hmm. right? And it's a photo, right? So there's only so much you can do with a photo,
right?
But the work that you do before you take that shot, and how you set up the mindset of the model that you're shooting with, the environment, the location, the lighting that you're going to use, that all creates that emotion that really, like you said earlier today, it causes you to stop scrolling.
Exactly.
For a second,
mm-hmm.
too. Because now you're not just seeing a photo, you're looking at it.
Right.
And you're seeing the different parts of it, and why is that in frame? Why is
right.
it there? Why isn't something there? Why is she looking that way? Like, what's going on? And the moment you start asking yourself these things as a photographer, like, you just get your levels of quality of work just increases.
It does. It really does.
Because now you're putting in time and effort into thinking about what's going on in the photo. Now
right.
you're not just taking a shot anymore.
Right.
Now you're telling a story. And it's a small transition. It's slow. It takes a long time.
It does take a while.
That happens one day to the next.
Right.
But you find yourself, like, I look back at older photos and there's no story.
Right? Exactly.
And now, like, I'm not anywhere near your level or Danny's level, but I'm seeing a little bit more storytelling.
That's good. No, I appreciate that, man. But yeah, I think we evolve over time as photographers, videographers. Doesn't matter what we are, and everyone does it. You go back and you see all of your old stuff, and you're just like, ooh,
you cringe a little
yeah, it's cringy, right? Like I missed the mark.
I posted that and I thought it was amazing.
yeah. I think you had Marco on the show, and I watched that one, mm-hmm. and he was talking about one of his first photos that he ever took. It was like of his cousin or something like that, and he's like, yeah, and he's like, yeah, I'm not sharing that. No one's ever going to see that photo ever again. But it's true though. You go back and you see all the work that you used to do, where you got started. I still think it's very important to do that, because it's not to put yourself down. It's just to see how far you've come. Right. It's to see what you've done over the last, whether it be 6 months to a year to 5 years. And you can start to, in some ways, it's gratifying to be able to see the work that you've put in, everything that you've been trying to do. And I won't ever, you can't ever be satisfied though. I don't think that you should, I mean, it's okay to love your work. It's okay to be like, I love what I did here. I love the photos that I just got, but it shouldn't stop there. There should always be something that is, it doesn't necessarily mean that something has to be bugging you with everything that you do or with every photo that you take, but don't be afraid to try new things. Go out there and try something else. You can still have your style, but don't be afraid to try things. Like I know there's so many people that do not want to use flash. They don't use off-camera flash, and I don't understand why. I know that there's a complete difference between natural light and off-camera flash, but when you get better with off-camera flash, sometimes you don't even know that you're using off-camera flash. I just think that over time, you go back, you look over what you've done, say, yep, I know I've improved. And it helps us. It helps us as creatives to see how far we've come, the work that we put in, and adopting our own styles and constantly evolving and doing different things. Or maybe you do start to look back at your work and you see, hey, I'm actually starting to look like somebody that I don't feel like I'm adopting my own style. It's a way to teach. You can start to learn more about yourself. You know what I mean? So I think going back, seeing the work that you've done, where you're going, it just helps us exponentially across the board. So
where do you think the apprehension comes from when it comes to using off-camera flash? Because it took me a long time to adopt it as well. It wasn't until I did my first one-on-one with them, like, bro, and I had the flash, and I just never used it.
Right.
Never bothered to bring it with me.
Yeah. So I started off-camera flash with automotive photography.
Right.
So I was already pretty well versed when it came to using flash, just because of that. The thing about off-camera flash, it is somewhat intimidating because you don't know where to start. A lot of people just like, hey, you have this flash, but what do I do with it? Where do I put it? How is it too bright? Is it not bright enough? What are my camera settings supposed to be too? And all of that does come into play. But as I've told anyone that's ever asked me on what I do with flash or what flash I should buy, just say, hey, buy something that's not very expensive. The Godox 8200 Pro, just buy that one. That's what I started with my very first flash. Just buy that, buy a softbox and a stand to put it on, buy a trigger. Probably not spending more than $400, something like that, just to get your foot in the door. But I think some people will say, flash just isn't my style. And which I guess I can understand to some extent, but at the same time, I think more or less it's just people are afraid or don't want to change. People don't like change. A lot of people don't like change, but I'll always preach in this industry. I think that change and constantly evolving is a big thing. So flash is and it can be intimidating, but I think it's something that every photographer, it doesn't matter what, like I said, I got started in automotive with flash. It doesn't just stretch beyond, or just stay in. It doesn't just stay in portraits. It stretches beyond everything. Danny, again, right? Danny uses it for real estate photography, which is what I'm going to be doing too. So, you can use flash for so many different things, food, you name it, so flash is important, I think.
I think I love what you said because it's so true. Yeah. People don't know you use a flash if you're good at using flash.
Exactly.
Right.
It's funny because I'll take some photos and I'll be like, oh, you know what? I actually did pretty good with the flash here. You can't really tell. So I'll post it to my story and I'll ask everyone, hey, was this natural light or off camera flash? And it's kind of crazy how many people are like, oh, that's natural light, man. And I'm like, sweet. I got it right, because that's what I like to do. And lighting is everything, because when it comes to photography, one of the most important elements is light. It doesn't matter if it's natural, ambient, if it's artificial, whether it be from the light in the room or an off-camera flash that you're using, the sunlight, moonlight, whatever it is, there's lighting is very important because that's what is coming into your lens, right? All your camera settings are based on light. It's based on your shutter speed, your ISO, all that stuff is based on light. So it always starts with light when it comes to photography. So being able to use light in many different instances, like I said, whether it's ambient light, off-camera flash, you name it, it's important. So
I think your style is natural light up until you learn how to use a flash, and then it's not natural light. The most tedious thing is chasing the sun.
Oh, I know.
I hate that. I don't shoot outside unless I have to be in a specific mood to shoot outside now with no flash.
Right.
I got so comfortable with controlling how I see light.
Oh yeah.
And how the audience sees light. Right? Because it opens up a different dimension of photography now, where you're like, yo, I have the sun in my hands, and I can control what's being seen.
Exactly.
And it's so you can get so much more creative when you have the flash.
Oh yeah.
Right, compared to natural light. I'm not saying that you can't use the sun, obviously, for
right,
but when you have the control of being able to say, okay, I'm going to put the light over here to get this mood, or over here, or behind her, or whatever the case may be, you're leaving away tools that you could use to make you a better photographer.
Exactly. And that's the big thing is what's going to make you better.
Right.
What's going to make you, and it's crazy because when I started to use off-camera flash as opposed to natural light, I started to really hate shooting natural light because I just felt like I was losing something from my photography.
Something that's missing. It's
right. Yeah. There's just something that's missing from it. So I didn't like to shoot without off-camera flash at all. And that's another thing, right? Is that, the photographers these days like to make fun of those photographers that only shoot at golden hour, right? Only when the sun is setting. And that's a big thing. I've gotten to the point now though, to where I can literally shoot in any lighting situation, to where it doesn't matter if the sun is just rising, if it is noon and the sun is right overhead and it's so super bright and hot.
You're better than me.
It's just one of those things, right? Because I didn't like doing it either. I'm like, nah, the sun's too harsh right now. I will give it a couple hours, then we'll go out and shoot. It'll be softer. And that's the thing, right? When we talk about flash and how some photographers don't like to use it, putting yourself in a situation that you're uncomfortable with is only going to make you better in the long run. Constantly going out there and doing it, different ways of approaching it. Because I would do, when I first started to do stuff like that, high noon, sun's right above, and what I would see is, these models in general, they like to wear long eyelashes. So the big thing is I get that shadow casting and it just doesn't look right. You can alleviate that with off-camera flash though, believe it or not, right? You can just change things up a little bit by shining a little bit of light on their face and all of a sudden those shadows are gone. That's a great thing about off-camera flash. And then at the same time, I'm like, okay, I don't want to have to always rely on this thing. Let me get out there with just my camera in harsh sunlight. And that's the thing. When I was in Jamaica, because I went on the Paradise Challenge, I shot very few times that I ever used my flash while I was out there. It was kind of crazy because I even told myself, I'm like, I'm going to use all the tools that I have to capture all the different photos that I can possibly get here. And I hardly broke out my flash. There was very few times that I did. But being able to do that stuff on the fly, it doesn't matter what time of day it is, I think is it's one of those things that I pride myself on, is that if I could be proud about something about being a photographer, it's that I don't care if we're in a dark room, which I've done that before where there's literally no light. I don't care if it's, 12 o'clock and the sun's it's bright as hell right overhead. I can shoot that too. Or if we're out on the streets and it's midnight, I can shoot that too. I like being able to be, able to shoot anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter. I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm proud of as a photographer. So
you're doing very, very well.
Thanks, man.
Extremely well. I wanted to ask just before we close off, there's a new photographer every single day.
Yeah.
There's a new creative every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to get into the industry now. The phones are getting better. There's sometimes I can't even tell if we took a picture with a phone or the camera.
Right.
That's how good it's becoming.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have for all these new creatives coming out?
Well, sure. I know that phones are getting better at taking photos, and you can even get, nice little lenses that you can attach to your phones now and take even better photos, If you have a phone and if you want to get into photography, take out your phone. That's honestly, when I was stationed in England, before I even bought my first camera, the reason I bought my first camera is because I was traveling to places like Europe, or to Italy, into Germany, and seeing all of these historic places. I walked into the Colosseum in Rome, and all I had was my phone. And I took some really cool photos with my phone. And I think that was a Samsung Galaxy S7. It was a while ago. It was a long time ago. So it was like 8-9 years ago. But take out your phone. Take pictures of it. But if you start to realize that you want to pursue this a little bit more, you want to get a little bit more serious about it, there's no way that a phone camera is ever going to amount to an actual mirrorless camera, even a DSLR. I think phones have a long ways to go. They do a really good job. I think they're better at video personally than they are at photo, believe it or not, just because I think that the stability in them has gotten crazy good. You can literally... it's crazy the kind of video that I can get with my phone as opposed to my camera, because the sensor in my camera will literally pick up every movement. Mm-hmm. But if I take out my phone, I still have this the 12 Pro Max iPhone, and I can take a video with my phone, and it's crazy how stable it actually is when I'm moving around and videoing stuff. So if you want to use your phone, use it. I think you could still get really good stuff with your phone. It's crazy how far they've come, because, I'm 37 years old. So I was there when the Nokia brick was around, and that was, yeah,
knocking people out.
Exactly. So that's where I came from, and seeing where it is today, it's really crazy. Mm-hmm. But I still don't think that you're going to be able to get the depth or versatility that you'd ever get with an actual camera. But even if you do love what you do, you can still take amazing videos. You can take amazing photos with your phone, because, you can give a photographer or a person a camera and they can go and take a picture. Does that make them a good photographer? What makes somebody an actual good photographer? Is it the gear that they're using, or is it the way that they capture things? Is it the tools that they use to get there? Because anybody can call themselves a photographer when they have something in their hands to take a picture of something. You can take a picture of your phone and you can say, and sometimes you might not notice, is that a phone or is that an actual camera? You can't notice sometimes, but what makes that photo actually good? Was it the phone or the camera, or was it the person taking the photo? And I think that is more important. So what tools do you have to be an actual good photographer? It doesn't matter what you're using. It doesn't matter what tools you have. What did you do that actually made that photo really good? You know what I'm saying? I think that is one thing that we should pay attention to more, as opposed to what type of gear that they're using to actually get those photos.
I love it. One last question.
Yeah.
What's a common mistake that you see young photographers make that you'd like them to be aware of? That's not they can improve on.
That's tough. I mean, because I still make mistakes too. Mm-hmm. I think the up and comers, the people that are just getting started today, I think the big thing that we all have to have, especially the new people coming up, is a little bit of humility. I think being humble and understanding that there are plenty of other people out there that are doing what you're doing. Constantly be eager to learn. Don't stay in one spot. Don't ever feel like you're good enough, because there's always going to be more. There's going to be certain things that come out that will make your photography better. Just like I said, with off-camera flash, right? Don't be afraid to learn it. I'm not the best at it. There are so many people that are so much better than me at a lot of these things, and me being able to identify that, it just gives me more hunger to learn more. And I think that having humility, being constantly communicative, asking people that you look up to, have a mentor, don't go out there thinking that you know it all, because I promise you other people know a lot more than you do. And it might not be me, might not be you, might not even be Danny, right? There's a lot of people out there that have so much information, a wealth of knowledge. And I think humility will get you a very long way, being able to really learn. And I just feel like photographers these days, they fall in love with their stuff so much, or they really love it. They get a lot of followers. They have, 8,000, then 10,000, then 50,000, then 100,000 followers. And they just think that they're the best. When I look at some of their work and I'm just like, I don't think it's that good, but you have a lot of followers, happy for you. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean work stops there though. You always have to be eager to learn. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice that I could give, that I can kind of, if I were to address something that I didn't really see happening enough of. So
I love that. Robby, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm super excited to be here. I love Miami. So happy I finally got to meet you, man. So it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. I'm honored. I can't wait to have you again.
Oh yeah, I'll be back. That's what I say to everyone, man. Every city that I go to, I will be back. I always come back. There's a reason I went there to begin with. There's going to be another reason for me to come back. So I will be back.
And how can our listeners find you? What social medias do you have?
So the only thing that I use right now, I'm still working on the business aspect of my photography, but the best place is obviously going to be Instagram. VooduuChild, VooduuChild, one word. So
I said one question.
Where did the name come from? That's everyone asks me that. Where does that name come from, right? Well, if you're a rock and roll fan, especially the old classic rock and roll, Jimi Hendrix wrote a song called VooduuChild, right? That's not where my name actually came from. So as we started from the beginning, right? I started out in automotive photography, and I'm a big Mustang fan. So if I have any Mustang, other Mustang fans listening, they're going to know that I own a Shelby GT350, and the engine code name for that was, the code name for the engine was Voodoo. That's where the name came from, right? And when I started to really get big into Instagram and started doing my photography there, I was like, what should my Instagram name be? So I was talking to my dad, on the phone, and he's a real big classic rock fan, and he's like, I got a perfect name for your Instagram. And I'm like, all right, Dad, all right, hit me with it, and he's like, you should call yourself VooduuChild. And I'm like, I started thinking to myself, I'm like, no, Dad, that's corny, man. That's cheesy, But then I really started to think about it. I'm like, okay, hold on. Maybe I might have something here. Maybe it could be, like my own trademark or something like that. I just really started to think about it. So I typed it out. And of course, the actual VOODOO was already taken. You ain't no way you're going to get that name. Mm-hmm. So that was already taken. So I just started to elaborate on how I wanted to spell it. And the big thing about Instagram, right? One of the things that I've learned is having one word, no underscores, no dots, usually are the best Instagram handles, just because it's more appealing to the eye. So I just wanted to find something that kind of stuck with that lineage. So I gave myself the VooduuChild name, and it was back when I was doing automotive stuff. So I started asking all my followers, right? I'm like, do you guys think I should change my name since I don't really do my automotive stuff anymore? They're like, absolutely not. I've kind of trademarked it now. So I'm going to, because I'm going to, my LLC is Voodoo Photography. I've already got my own logo that I'm going to be putting a trademark on, and I'm going to sell merchandise. And if people want it, they want it. If they don't, they don't. But it's just kind of something that, built over time. So everyone knows me as Voodoo. I'm shooting with Voodoo today, so it works.
I know you as Voodoo too.
Yeah, exactly. So if that's what people say, they call me Voodoo, and I'm okay with it. I like it. So
it's badass.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this out to the wind right now. Ford, if you're hearing this ever, we want to shoot some Mustangs. Okay. So please, I'm calling it out to the universe that they bring us some Mustangs for you. Okay?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I'd love that.
Okay, brother, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me
here, and I hope to see you again.
Yeah, man. Can't wait to come back.